Remember when we talked about we had two types or two forms of the and inequality, one where we actually had the word and there. The other form, you remember, looks like this, where we have the x value or the x expression in the middle, and so it's greater than -6 to the left here, and also at the same time it's less than 12. Now there's two ways that you can solve this. I'll show you both ways very quickly. One way is to separate it into the two inequalities that are represented. So you can do that by just imagining you cover that up, and we're left with this inequality here. So we have -6 is less than 2x minus 4, and then we can go ahead and just imagine that this side is gone, and so we have the same thing over here. Whoops, really block that out here. And so then we have this 2x minus 4 is less than 12. And then we can go ahead and solve it like we did the last ones, where you do this one separately. Okay, so you can separate it out. However, there is a little trick or shortcut here that you could take, as long as you remembered it that this is a compound inequality and you do the same thing to everything. In other words, remember when we have equations, we have to do the same thing to both sides. If I add 2 here, I've got to add 2 to the other side, or subtract the same thing from both sides. Well, I can do that with a compound inequality here, just as long as I think of this as kind of having 3 sides or 3 parts. I have this part here that's on the left, I have this part that's in the middle, and I have this part that's on the right. Now, as long as I do the same thing to all 3 parts, kind of the same thing that I do with equations, I can just leave it like this and solve it all together. So again, I want to solve for x, so I need to add 4 to get rid of this 4 to move it to the other side. But I have to do it to this side, but I also have to do it to this side. So I do it to all 3 parts at once. So -6 and 4 is -2. This is going to be 0, leaving me 2x. And then this is going to be 16. Make sure you keep your signs. And then I want to divide by 2 to get x by itself, so I divide each of these by 2. So that reduces to -1. This reduces to 1, or x, and then this reduces to 8. And voila, there's my answer. X needs to be between -1 and 8. So then I can go ahead and graph my answer. So go ahead and do my number line. X is greater than, again, if you want to see this kind of, I'll pull this down here so you can see it. So here's one inequality. X is greater than -1. Okay, so -1 greater than is an open circle, so that's greater than. And at the same time, x is less than 8. Okay, so I have 8 up here, x is less than that, so it's in between -1 and 8, and again that graph looks like most of my inequality graphs look like. Okay, so you can solve these and inequalities in this form by just keeping it all together like this, or you can go ahead and separate it into its two and then do them like you did the ones before. Okay, I'd like you to stop the video right now very quickly and go ahead and do numbers 42 and 44. Come back later after you've done those and take a look at the answers and make sure you get them right. And then again, if you have any questions, write those down in your notes so you'll be sure to ask them in class. So go ahead and do those and then come back and check out the answers. Alright, here's the work and the answer to number 42, the original expression here. And again, I solved it using leaving it as this rather than separating it. So I subtract 2 from each term. That leaves me the 9 over 3 dividing by 3. So I end up with 3 less than y less than 6, or y is greater than 3 and at the same time less than 6. So open circles because it's not equal to, and again the graph looks like it should, that and. Now I hope you took a look at this next one. There's a little twist there. Just remember, so we have 36 greater than or equal to 1 minus 5z greater than or equal to negative 21. When I do this, notice in this step I'm dividing by a negative sign. So remember the rule when we're doing with inequalities, when you divide by a negative, the sign has to switch positions. Okay, and so because I divided all parts by this, both signs have to be changed. So that's going to change the sign there. Okay, so if you didn't get that one right, make sure you paid attention to that and make sure you make that correction. Alright, so z needs to be greater than negative 7 or equal to, so it's a closed circle. and less than or equal to, so it's a closed circle at 4 2/5. And remember, if we're going to have a fraction here or a mixed number, make sure you put the two numbers that it's between on your number line so we know exactly where we are, or have a good estimate about where we are in the number line. Okay, so those are the and inequalities. Go ahead and check out the next video for the or inequalities, and then we'll do one final video on applying this and inequality to tolerance problems.